Did you know? During the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, millions of Indians boycotted British goods, causing foreign cloth imports to drop rapidly from 102 crore rupees to 57 crore rupees between 1921 and 1922. This showcased both the economic impact of the movement and the Indian people's unwavering dedication to independence. Let's delve into the varying aspects of the movement, exploring how diverse social groups were involved, each interpreting the term in their own unique way. Differing strands within the movement. The movement in the towns. In January 1921, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement kicked off with enthusiasm. However, it's important to understand that this movement wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It meant different things to different people, and this diversity was both its strength and challenge. Initially, the non-cooperation movement primarily drew participation from the middle class in urban areas. Thousands of students made a remarkable sacrifice by leaving government-controlled schools and colleges. Headmasters and teachers too resigned from their positions, demonstrating their commitment to the cause of independence. Even lawyers, who had long practiced in the British legal system, gave up their legal practices in support of the movement. Council elections were boycotted in most provinces, with one notable exception being Madras, where the Justice Party saw this as an opportunity to gain political power. Economic effects. The economic impact of the movement was significant. Foreign goods were boycotted, and foreign cloth was burned in large bonfires. The import of foreign cloth dropped significantly between 1921 and 1922, from 102 crore rupees to 57 crore rupees. Many merchants and traders also refused to deal in foreign goods or finance foreign trade. Additionally, the production of Indian textile mills and handlooms increased as people started wearing only Indian clothes. This was a powerful symbol of self-reliance and resistance against British economic exploitation. Challenges and slowdown. However, like any movement, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement faced several challenges that caused it to slow down eventually. One challenge was that khadi cloth, though symbolic and meaningful, was more expensive than mass-produced mill cloth. This made it difficult for the poor to continue boycotting mill cloth. Moreover, the boycott of British institutions required viable alternative Indian institutions, which were slow to emerge. In time, practical considerations led some students and teachers to return to government schools, and lawyers resumed their work in government courts. Despite these challenges, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement was a transformative period in our history. It brought various social groups together and ignited the flame of resistance against British rule. It laid the foundation for future movements and demonstrated the power of collective action in our quest for freedom. Let's venture into the heartland of our country, where the non-cooperation movement took on a different form and became a potent force for change in rural India. Rebellion in the countryside. Non-cooperation movement in the countryside. While the non-cooperation movement initially found its roots in the cities, it soon spread its wings to rural regions, where it took on a life of its own. The struggle extended beyond the urban landscape and began to encompass the hopes and aspirations of peasants and tribals. In the fertile region of Awadh, a remarkable peasant movement was led by Baba Ramchandra, a former indentured laborer in Fiji who returned to India with a vision of justice. These peasants were no longer willing to bear the burden of high rents, various cesses, and the oppressive practice of forced labor, known as begar, imposed upon them by the landlords. Their demands were clear and compelling. They wanted reduced revenue, the abolition of begar, and a social boycott of the oppressive landlords who had held them in bondage for far too long. To organize their efforts, they formed the Awadh Kisan Sabha in October 1920, with Jawaharlal Nehru and Baba Ramchandra at the helm. The Congress saw the potential in integrating the Awadh peasant struggle into the broader non-cooperation movement. Peasant movement and Congress leadership. However, the peasant movement took forms that the Congress leadership did not always approve of. Some protesters went beyond peaceful resistance, attacking the houses of landlords and merchants and taking over grain hoards. Rumors of land redistribution circulated, raising the stakes of the struggle. Interestingly, the name of Mahatma Gandhi was invoked to justify these actions and aspirations. The idea of Gandhi's non-violent resistance seemed to resonate with the peasants, even though their methods differed. Tribal peasants and Swaraj interpretation. In the dense and remote terrain of the Gudem Hills in Andhra Pradesh, a different kind of rebellion was brewing in the early 1920s. The colonial government's policies restricted access to forest resources, deeply affecting the livelihoods and traditional rights of the hill people. The tribal peasants of Gudem Hills revolted against the oppressive practice of forced labor, begar, imposed upon them for road-building projects. A charismatic leader, Alluri Sitaram Raju, emerged as their guiding light. Raju claimed to possess special powers and a connection to Mahatma Gandhi, and he encouraged his followers to embrace khadi clothing and abstain from alcohol. However, what set Raju apart was his belief in the use of force to achieve Swaraj, or independence. Under his leadership, a guerrilla warfare movement erupted, targeting British officials and police stations as a means to achieve their goal of freedom. Sadly, Raju's journey ended in 1924 when he was captured and executed by the British authorities. Yet, even in death, he became a folk hero, remembered for his unwavering determination and the extraordinary saga of resistance he led. Let's quickly solve a question to revise what we have learned. What did the peasants demand from the talukdars and landlords? The correct answer is option D. The peasant movement in Awadh demanded three things: the reduction of revenue, the abolition of begar, and a social boycott of oppressive landlords. Let's talk about how plantation workers in the tea gardens understood Mahatma Gandhi and the idea of Swaraj, which means self-rule or freedom. In the lush tea gardens of Assam, the concept of freedom took on a unique meaning for the plantation workers. For them, Swaraj meant the right to move freely and maintain a connection with their ancestral villages. This longing for freedom was deeply tied to their sense of identity and roots. However, their dreams were hampered by the Inland Emigration Act of 1859, which restricted their movement and effectively kept them confined to the tea gardens. The British authorities controlled every aspect of their lives, leaving little room for self-determination. Non-cooperation movement and plantation workers. When the non-cooperation movement swept across India, it reached even the remote tea gardens of Assam. Thousands of workers defied the authorities, left the plantations, and embarked on a journey back to their villages. Their belief was that Mahatma Gandhi's vision of Swaraj would grant them land and the freedom to lead a dignified life. However, these workers faced tremendous hardships. A railway and steamer strike disrupted their journey, and they were eventually caught and brutally beaten by the police. Their struggle, while fraught with challenges, showcased their unwavering commitment to the idea of Swaraj. Visions of Swaraj. Interestingly, these movements were not confined to the dictates of Congress programs. Plantation workers interpreted Swaraj in their own unique ways. They envisioned a future where their suffering and troubles would come to an end, a time when they would have control over their own destinies. Emotional connection to All India agitation. These workers shared a deep emotional connection to the larger freedom movement. They chanted Gandhi's name and fervently demanded Swatantra Bharat, Free India, demonstrating their solidarity and identification with the movement beyond their immediate locality. Dear students, in this video, we have thoroughly explored the topic differing strands within the movement. We will cover the next topics in the next video of this chapter.